Under a brutal winter storm, the man spotted a tiny figure collapsed outside his gate. He rushed over, scooped the shivering child into his arms and froze when she whispered, "Mama hasn't come home." He called his private doctor on the spot, brought her inside, and gave her the warmth she desperately needed. From that moment on, he was pulled into a frantic search for her missing mother, and behind the doors of that dark, silent factory, something was waiting neither of them saw coming. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from, subscribe and hype because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The snow was coming down hard that morning in Frosthaven, not the gentle kind that makes everything look like a Christmas card. This was the wet, heavy kind that soaked through your clothes and turned roads into skating rinks. 6-year-old Aria Lane had been walking for what felt like forever. Her pink sneakers were completely soaked. The cartoon bunnies on the sides looked sad and droopy. Her socks squelched with every step. She couldn't feel her toes anymore. The puffy red coat from the thrift store wasn't doing much good. Too thin for weather like this, and the zipper had broken last month. She held it closed with one hand while the other stayed tucked under her armpit. Her pale skin had gone blotchy and red. Her blonde hair stuck to her cheeks in wet clumps. Her teeth wouldn't stop chattering. She kept whispering the same words like a prayer. Mama comes home every morning. Every single morning. But Mama hadn't come home. Mama worked nights at a factory far away. Every morning she'd walk through their apartment door smelling like metal and chemicals. She'd kiss Aria on the forehead and make toast with strawberry jam. That's how mornings worked. Except this morning, the door never opened. Aria had waited at their little kitchen table counting things to pass the time. The cracks in the ceiling, 14. The flowers on the curtain, 23. The cars driving by outside. When both hands on the clock pointed straight up at 12, Aria knew something was really wrong. So she'd put on her coat and sneakers and gone looking. She tried the bus stop first, but the bench was empty and covered in snow. Then the woods, where Mama sometimes cut through when running late. But the woods were scary alone. The trees were tall and their branches hung down low, heavy with snow. She fell twice. The second time, she scraped her hand on a rock and it hurt bad. Then she remembered something Mama had told her once, after a nightmare about monsters. "Baby, if you ever get really scared and you can't find me, you remember that big house on the hill. The one with all the pretty lights. The man who lives there is a good person. If something bad happens, you can go there and he'll help you." Aria hadn't understood then. But now she didn't know what else to do. She started walking toward the hill. It was so steep, her legs burned with every step. The wind pushed against her. She fell 3 more times and each time it got harder to stand back up. Finally, through all the white and gray, she saw them. Big black gates made of iron. Behind them sat the biggest house she'd ever seen up close, made of dark stone with so many glowing windows. Aria pressed her face between the cold metal bars. "Hello, is anybody there?" The wind was too loud, nobody could hear her. She tried to push the gate but it was locked tight. She wasn't strong enough. A small black camera mounted above the gate had a tiny red light blinking. Aria stared at it, hoping someone was watching. She counted to 30 like Mama taught her. Nobody came. Her legs just gave up. She sat in the snow with her back against the gate, tucking her hands under her arms. "I tried, Mama. I tried real hard to find you." Her eyes felt so heavy, everything hurt and she was so tired. She fell forward into the snow, and everything went quiet and dark. Marcus Hartman was halfway to his car when he saw something dark against the white snow near his gate. He squinted through the falling snow, something small, not moving. His briefcase hit the driveway with a thud. "Hey," he started running, his dress shoes slipping on ice. "Hey, somebody there." He yanked the gate open and dropped to his knees. A little girl with blonde hair, lying face down in the snow. Jesus Christ. His hands shook as he touched her shoulder. "Hey, can you hear me, sweetheart?" Nothing. He shook a little harder. "Come on now, wake up for me." Her eyelids fluttered. "That's it, stay with me." Her eyes opened halfway. Blue eyes, unfocused and glassy. Her lips moved and words came out so quiet he had to lean close. "Mister, my mama didn't come home last night." Then her eyes rolled back and her body went limp. Marcus felt his heart slam against his ribs. He scooped her up fast, pulling her against his chest. She was way too light. Her wet coat soaked through his shirt. Her skin was ice cold. He turned and ran toward the house, nearly falling twice on the icy driveway. "Mrs. Chen," he yelled as he burst through the front door. His housekeeper appeared from the kitchen. "Call Dr. Morrison right now. Emergency, a child." "Sir, what happened?" "Just call her." and turn on the fireplace in the living room. Get blankets, hot water bottles. Move. He carried the girl to the couch and wrapped her in every blanket he could find. Come on, little one, he muttered, hands still shaking. Don't do this. Come on. Her small backpack had fallen on the floor. Marcus unzipped it with fumbling fingers, looking for ID, parents' names, anything. Inside, gloves with holes in the fingers, an empty juice box, a crushed granola bar, and a piece of paper folded small. He unfolded it carefully. A crayon drawing, a woman with blonde hair holding hands with a little girl, a yellow sun, trees, a small brown house with a red door. At the bottom in shaky handwriting, "Me and Mama." Marcus stared at the drawing, his throat tight. Who was this child? Where was her mother? And why had she been walking alone in a blizzard? The girl's eyes opened slowly, blinking against the fireplace light. She looked around confused, at the high ceiling, the bookshelves, the crackling fire. Then her eyes landed on Marcus. She flinched and pulled the blankets to her chin. Marcus held very still, kept his voice gentle. "You're safe, sweetheart. Nobody's going to hurt you. I promise." The girl just stared with big blue eyes. Marcus sat in the armchair across from her. "My name is Marcus. This is my house. You were outside in the snow and you passed out, so I brought you inside where it's warm. Do you remember?" The girl nodded barely. "Okay, that's good." Marcus held out a mug of warm water. "Here, just water, nothing else. You should try to drink some." The girl slowly reached out and took it with both shaking hands. She took a tiny sip, then another. "Can you tell me your name?" Marcus asked gently. The girl looked down at the mug, didn't answer for a long time. Marcus waited. Finally, in the smallest voice, "Aria." "Aria, that's a real pretty name." Marcus paused. "How old are you, Aria?" She held up one hand, fingers spread wide. 6 years old." "All right." Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Aria, honey, can you tell me about your mama? Do you know where she works?" Aria's face crumpled like she might cry. Her eyes filled with tears. "She didn't come home." "I know, baby. You told me that. But I want to help you find her, okay? Can you tell me where she works?" Aria's forehead wrinkled. "It's a big place, really loud." "What kind of loud?" Aria made a clanking banging sound. "Like that. Bang bang bang. And it smells bad, like when Mama burns dinner but worse." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Like a factory." Aria shrugged. "I don't know what that means. Does your mama wear special clothes when she goes to work, like a coat or a hat?" "Yeah, she wears a blue coat, and a hat with a light on the front. She says the light helps her see in the dark." Marcus's hands gripped his knees tight. He knew exactly what she was describing. Factory workers, night shift, safety gear with headlamps, and he owned 3 factories in this town. Marcus pulled out his phone and called his head of human resources. Diana picked up on the second ring. "Marcus, it's barely 7 in the morning. I need you to pull up employee records for all 3 factories. I'm looking for a woman, white, blonde hair, has a 6-year-old daughter. First name might be..." He looked at Aria. "What's your mama's name, sweetheart?" "Her real name." Aria thought hard. "Miss Mira. People call her Miss Mira." Marcus relayed this. "First name Mira. Look for anyone who matches." He heard typing. "Then I've got a Mira Lane, North Steel Facility, night shift assembly line. Been with us for 4 years." 4 years. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. "Pull her time card from last night." More typing. Then a long pause. "Marcus, she clocked in at 10 p.m. But there's no clock out logged." "What does that mean?" "It means according to our system, she's still on site. But there's no incident report." Marcus felt anger simmer in his chest. Who was managing that shift? Frank Morrison. "Get him on the phone right now." "Marcus, it's 7 in the morning. I don't care. Get him on the phone in the next 5 minutes or he can start packing his desk." He ended the call and turned to Aria. "I think I know where your mama works, and I'm going to go find her right now." Aria's eyes got wider. "Really? You promise?" "I promise." "Can I come with you?" Every logical part of Marcus's brain said no, but he looked at Aria's face and couldn't say it. "Yeah, you can come." 25 minutes later, Marcus's black Range Rover cut through snow-covered streets toward the industrial district. Aria sat in the back seat, wrapped in one of Mrs. Chen's coats, holding a thermos of hot cocoa she hadn't touched. Just stared out the window. Marcus kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She looked so small. He had no idea how to talk to children. His own childhood had been a mess, bouncing between his grandmother's house and foster care. By 18 he'd learned one lesson: rely on yourself because nobody else will be there. That mindset had built his empire. But right now, with a scared 6-year-old in his back seat, all that success felt useless. "You warm enough back there?" he asked. Arya nodded without looking at him. "Your mama, how long has she worked at the factory?" "A really long time, since before I can remember good. And it's just you and her, the two of you." Arya nodded. "Daddy died when I was 3. I don't remember him much, just from pictures." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I'm sorry about your dad, sweetheart. It's okay. Mama says he's in heaven watching over us, making sure we're safe." Marcus didn't know what to say, so he said nothing, just focused on the road. The industrial district appeared, ugly gray buildings with smokestacks and chain-link fences topped with barbed wire. North Steel sat at the far end, a squat building with corrugated metal siding and small grimy windows. Yellow lights glowed inside. The parking lot was half full of beat-up vehicles covered in snow. Marcus pulled in and parked, cut the engine, sat there for a second. "What am I doing? I should have called the police." But then he looked in the rearview mirror and saw Arya clutching that thermos, eyes wide and scared. "When we go inside, you stay right next to me. Don't wander off." "Okay. Okay," Arya whispered. The inside of the factory was like hell. Heat slammed into them first, thick and oppressive. Then the noise, machinery clanking and grinding and screeching. The smell of hot metal and oil and sweat. Workers in blue coveralls moved along assembly lines like zombies. Their faces looked gray and exhausted. Nobody looked up. A man in a yellow safety vest spotted them and hurried over, nearly tripping. Middle-aged with a beer gut and thinning gray hair. His face went pale when he recognized Marcus. "Mr. Hartman, sir, we weren't expecting you. Where's Frank Morrison?" Marcus cut him off, voice cold. "He's in the office, but get him, right now." "Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir." The man practically ran away. Marcus kept walking deeper into the factory, past assembly lines where workers glanced up with wary eyes, past machinery that looked poorly maintained. Arya stayed pressed close to his side, her hand gripping his coat tight. He could feel her trembling. They reached a narrow hallway at the back where the noise wasn't quite as overwhelming. Marcus pushed open a door marked break room. The room was barely bigger than a closet. A flickering fluorescent light, plastic chairs that looked pulled from a dumpster, a folding table covered in coffee rings, a vending machine with an out-of-order sign, and there in the corner on the concrete floor beneath beat-up metal lockers was a woman. "Mama!" Arya's scream cut through everything. She let go of Marcus's coat and ran, dropping to her knees beside the woman. "Mama! Mama! Wake up!" Marcus was there in 3 strides. He knelt down. The woman, Mira Lane, was lying on her side. Blonde hair in a messy ponytail, pale skin with an ashy grayish tone, sweat on her forehead, her breathing shallow and uneven. Marcus pressed 2 fingers against her neck, found a pulse, weak and thready but there. "Mama, please," Arya cried, shaking her mother's shoulder. "Please wake up." Marcus gently pulled Arya back. "She's going to be okay. Help is coming, sweetheart." He looked up at the doorway where the man in the yellow vest had reappeared with another man, older with a pot belly straining against a stained supervisor's shirt. "You Frank Morrison?" Marcus's voice could have cut glass. "Yes, sir. Call an ambulance. Right now." Morrison fumbled for his phone. "Sir, if I could just explain." "Actually, forget it. We're not waiting. I'm taking her myself." He slid his arms under Mira's body and lifted her carefully. She was way too light, dangerously light. Her head lolled against his shoulder. "Everyone move," Marcus said as he walked toward the door. Workers parted like the Red Sea. Everyone stared as Marcus carried Mira through the factory, Arya running alongside. Outside, the snow was coming down harder. Marcus's driver had the Range Rover running with the back door open. Marcus laid Mira across the back seat. Arya scrambled in beside her mother, taking her hand. "St. Aurora Hospital," Marcus told his driver. "Get us there fast but keep it safe." The SUV pulled out, tires crunching through snow. Marcus turned to look at the back seat. Mira lay motionless, breathing too shallow. Arya had both hands wrapped around her mother's limp one, tears streaming down her face. "Is my mama going to die?" Arya asked in the smallest voice Marcus had ever heard. His throat felt tight. He'd made a lot of promises in his life. Business promises about money and deals and profit margins. Things he could control. This, he had zero control. But he looked at Arya's tear-streaked face and said no. "Your mama is strong. She's going to be okay. You promise?" Arya whispered. Marcus paused for just a heartbeat. Then I promise. He had no right to make that promise. No way to guarantee it, but he made it anyway. St. Aurora Hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. The automatic doors whooshed open and Marcus strode through carrying Mira, Arya running to keep up. I need help here. This woman collapsed. She's been unconscious for close to an hour. Nurses appeared immediately. A gurney materialized. They transferred Mira with quick, gentle movements. A nurse with kind eyes and silver hair looked at Marcus. What happened? Found her on the floor at a factory. Night shift worker. I think it's exhaustion, dehydration. Maybe more. I don't know. The nurse nodded and started wheeling Mira toward double doors marked authorized personnel only. Mama, Arya tried to follow. Marcus caught her gently by the shoulder. We have to wait here, sweetheart. Let the doctors help your mama first, but she needs me. Arya tried to pull away. The doctors are going to take real good care of her. Then you can see her. I promise. Arya's face crumpled and she started crying. Big heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She pressed her face against Marcus's coat and fell apart. Marcus knelt there in the middle of the emergency room with this crying child pressed against him, and he had absolutely no clue what to do. Slowly, awkwardly, he put one hand on top of her head, patted her blonde hair. It's going to be okay, he said quietly. Another promise he had no business making. The waiting room had fluorescent lights that were way too bright. Marcus and Arya sat in orange plastic chairs in the corner. Across from them, an elderly man dozed with his cane. A young mother tried to calm a fussy baby. A teenage boy held a blood-stained towel to his arm. Marcus's phone buzzed. He pulled it out. 23 missed calls, 41 emails, all marked urgent. He turned the phone completely off and shoved it back in his pocket. Arya sat next to him with her legs dangling off the chair too short to reach the floor. She'd stopped crying, but her eyes were red and swollen. She hadn't said a word in over an hour. You want some water? Marcus asked. Arya shook her head. Something to eat. Another head shake. Marcus didn't push, just sat there with her. An hour crawled by. Then another. Arya leaned against Marcus's arm at some point. Her eyes closed but she didn't quite sleep, just rested. Marcus didn't move, barely even breathed, afraid any movement would disturb her. Finally a doctor appeared. A black woman in her 40s with exhausted eyes and a white coat. Her name tag read Dr. Okafor. Mr. Hartman. Marcus stood carefully so Arya wouldn't fall. She jerked awake, blinking. That's me. Dr. Okafor glanced at Arya, then back at Marcus. Her expression was serious. Perhaps we should speak privately. No, Marcus said firmly. She's her daughter. She has a right to know what's going on. Dr. Okafor looked surprised but nodded slowly. She knelt down at Arya's eye level. Your mama is going to be okay, sweetheart. Arya's eyes filled with fresh tears. Really? For real? For real? But she's very sick and she needs to rest for a while. Can I see her? Dr. Okafor smiled. Yes, in just a few minutes. She's been asking for you. After Dr. Okafor stood up, she gestured for Marcus to step aside. He moved just far enough that Arya couldn't hear. How bad is it? Marcus asked quietly. Dr. Okafor's smile disappeared. Severe dehydration, dangerously low blood sugar, sleep deprivation. Her body was in the early stages of shutting down. If you'd found her even an hour later, she didn't finish. Jesus. Marcus ran a hand over his face. How long has she been like this? Hard to say, but based on her condition and what she's told us, it's been building for weeks, possibly months. She's been running on fumes for a very long time. Why didn't she see a doctor earlier? Dr. Okafor gave him a long look. Mr. Hartman, people like Miss Lane don't have the luxury of sick days. She's a single mother working night shifts at a factory. She probably thought she just had to push through it. Marcus felt something cold and heavy settle in his stomach. So this is on me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Marcus looked over at Arya. I own that factory. Those are my employees, and I had no idea any of this was happening. Dr. Okafor's expression softened slightly. Well, you know now. The question is what you're going to do about it. Room 214 was at the end of a long quiet hallway. Marcus pushed the door open, and Arya ran inside before he could say anything. Mira Lane was lying in the hospital bed, propped up by pillows. An IV line ran into her left arm. Monitors beeped softly. Her blonde hair was loose, spread across the pillow. Her pale skin still looked drawn. but her eyes were open and alert. "Baby," Mira whispered when she saw Arya. Arya climbed carefully onto the bed, mindful of the IV tubes. Mira wrapped her arms around her daughter and held on like she was drowning. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, baby girl. It's okay, Mama. You're okay now." Marcus stood near the door feeling like he was intruding, but he couldn't make himself leave. After a long moment, Mira looked up and saw him. Her eyes went wide and something like fear flashed across her face. "You're him. You're the owner of the factory." Marcus nodded slowly. Mira's arms tightened around Arya. "Are you here to fire me?" Marcus actually stepped backward, startled. "What? No. Why would you think that? I didn't finish my shift." The words tumbled out fast and panicked. "I know there are procedures. I know I was supposed to clock out properly, but I couldn't. I tried but I..." Her voice broke. "Miss Lane, stop," Marcus said, his voice firmer than intended. He softened his tone. "You're not getting fired. That's not why I'm here." Mira stared at him like he was speaking another language. "You collapsed because you've been working yourself literally to death, and apparently nobody at that factory noticed or cared enough to do anything about it. That's not your fault. That's my fault." Mira looked away, her hands trembling where they held Arya. "I needed the overtime. They cut everyone's hours 2 months ago, and I couldn't make rent without the extra shifts. I didn't have a choice." How long have you been working like this?" 4 years, Mira whispered. "Since my husband died and left me with nothing but medical bills and a 6-year-old to raise." The room went quiet except for the steady beeping. 4 years. This woman had been pushing herself past her breaking point for 4 years, working double shifts and skipping meals and sacrificing her health, all to keep a roof over her daughter's head. And nobody had noticed or cared. "When you're discharged from here," Marcus said, and he looked nervous, "I'd like to offer you something different, a position at the corporate office, administrative work, part-time, so you can actually spend time with Arya, flexible schedule, better pay and real benefits." Mira's eyes went wide. "What? No, I can't. I don't have any office experience. I barely graduated high school." "You showed up every single day for 4 years to a job that was literally killing you," Marcus said, meeting her eyes. "That tells me more about your work ethic than any college degree ever could. But just think about it. You don't have to decide right now. Just think about it, okay?" After he left, Mira lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. She didn't understand this man. This CEO who had carried her out of a factory, who had brought her daughter safely to the hospital, who was now offering her a job she couldn't possibly be qualified for. But maybe she was starting to believe he actually meant what he said. 3 days later, a nurse came in with discharge paperwork. Marcus appeared at her door, holding a manila folder. He looked nervous. "Hi, is this a bad time?" "No, come in," Mira said. Marcus stepped inside and glanced at Arya, who was drawing on the whiteboard. "I brought the contract for the office position, if you're interested." He held out the folder. Mira took it slowly. "Mr. Hartman, I still don't understand why you want to help us like this." "Marcus, just Marcus, and I want to help because you and Arya deserve better than what you've been getting." Mira opened the folder but the words kept swimming. "Can you just tell me what it says? The important parts?" "Yeah, of course." Marcus sat down. "Part-time administrative assistant, 25 hours a week, $32 an hour." Mira's breath caught. She'd been making $13.50 at the factory. This was more than double. Marcus continued. "Flexible schedule that works around Arya's school hours, full health insurance, medical, dental, vision, paid sick days, 2 weeks paid vacation every year." Mira's hands started shaking. This couldn't be real. "There's one more thing," Marcus said, looking even more nervous. "We've set up a space at the office for Arya, for after school, if you need somewhere safe for her to go. Just a small corner with books and art supplies. She'd be safe and you'd be close by." Mira looked up sharply, tears filling her eyes. "You did what? Was that okay? I should have asked first." "Why?" Mira interrupted, her voice cracking. "Why would you do all this for people you don't even know?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because Arya showed up at my gate and asked me to find you, and when I did find you, lying on that floor, I realized I'd been running a company for years without ever really seeing the people who make it work. You deserve to be seen, Mira. You and Arya both." He paused, then added quietly,
and maybe I needed to see you too, to remember what actually matters. Mira looked at Arya, who was watching them with wide hopeful eyes, then back at Marcus. Okay, I'll take the job. Marcus's whole body seemed to relax. You will? Yes, but I can't promise I'll be good at it. Just try, Marcus said, and a real smile crossed his face. That's enough. Monday morning came too fast. Mira stood outside Hartman Holdings, gripping her worn purse strap so tight her knuckles had gone white. The building towered above her, all glass and steel, reaching into the gray sky. She felt 2 inches tall. Mama, it's so big, Arya whispered beside her. Yeah, baby, it really is. She wanted to turn around, go find a job at a diner, somewhere she actually knew what she was doing. But then the glass doors opened, and Marcus stepped out. He wore a navy suit, though his burgundy tie was already crooked. She could see he'd missed a spot shaving. There was what looked like toothpaste on his sleeve. Somehow, seeing those imperfections made her feel better. Mira, Marcus said, and he sounded genuinely relieved. You came. I said I would. Marcus nodded, then looked down at Arya with a gentle smile. Good morning, Arya. Morning, Mr. Marcus, Arya said shyly, half hiding behind Mira's leg. Marcus led them inside and up to the executive floor. He showed Mira to a desk near tall windows overlooking downtown. This is your space. The work is mostly filing and data entry to start, some scheduling, email management. Catherine over there. He gestured to a woman with warm brown eyes and gray-streaked hair. She's my executive assistant, and she's going to train you on everything. If you need help with anything at all, just ask. Nobody here is going to judge you for asking questions, I promise. Mira sat down slowly in the desk chair. It was more comfortable than her bed at home. And that's for Arya, Marcus said, pointing to a corner near his office door. Mira looked over, and her eyes immediately filled with tears. It was a small space, but it had been set up with obvious care. A purple beanbag chair, a low bookshelf, filled with new children's books, a basket overflowing with new crayons and markers, a small table at just the right height with a purple cushioned chair, stuffed animals arranged on the shelf, a teddy bear, a rabbit, a unicorn. Marcus, Mira's voice came out choked. I wanted her to feel welcome here. My assistant Catherine helped me pick everything out, but if it's not right, we can change any of it. It's perfect, Mira whispered, wiping at her eyes. It's absolutely perfect. Arya was already running over. She plopped down on the beanbag with a delighted giggle. Mama, it's so squishy and soft. Mira laughed even as more tears fell. Marcus cleared his throat and looked away, clearly uncomfortable. I'll let you get settled in. If you need anything at all, my office is right there. Just knock. Anytime. The first day was overwhelming. So many programs to learn. Excel, Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, so many passwords, so many acronyms people used casually, that Mira didn't understand. She made mistakes, lots of them. She accidentally sent an email to the wrong department. She couldn't figure out how to attach a file, and had to ask Catherine 3 times. She scheduled a meeting for the wrong time zone, but Catherine just kept smiling patiently and showing her again and again. You're doing great, honey. Really, this is a lot to learn all at once. Mira didn't feel like she was doing great, but she kept trying. Every afternoon at 3:15, Arya came to the office after school. She'd walk in with her backpack bouncing, wave at Mira with a big smile, then settle into her little corner like she'd been doing it her whole life. Sometimes she did homework, sometimes she drew elaborate pictures, sometimes she read the books, and sometimes she'd fall asleep on that beanbag looking peaceful and safe.
Marcus noticed every single time. One evening around 6, Mira looked up to see Marcus standing near Arya's corner. Arya had fallen asleep with a book about dinosaurs lying open across her lap. Marcus carefully picked up the book and marked the page before setting it aside. Then he reached for something, a soft fleece blanket that Mira was certain hadn't been there that morning, and draped it gently over Arya, tucking it around her shoulders. He glanced up and saw Mira watching. He looked embarrassed. She looked cold, he said quietly. Thank you, Mira said, putting as much meaning into those 2 words as she could. Marcus just nodded and walked back toward his office. But Mira noticed how his shoulders relaxed, how his steps seemed lighter, how he glanced back at Arya one more time. He cared about them, more than he probably wanted to admit. By the second week things started making more sense. Mira figured out the filing system. She learned how to use Excel without panicking. She got comfortable with the scheduling software. She still made mistakes, but they were smaller mistakes now, easier to fix, and slowly she started to feel like maybe she actually could do this job. One afternoon in her third week, Marcus stopped by her desk. "How are you settling in?" "Better. I think I'm starting to get the hang of it." "Good. That's really good." Marcus paused. "I wanted to let you know the reforms at North Steel are fully implemented now. 10-hour maximum shifts with no exceptions. Mandatory breaks that supervisors have to enforce and document. We hired 53 new workers so nobody has to take dangerous amounts of overtime just to survive. And we're rolling out the same changes at the other 2 factories over the next month." Mira looked up at him, her eyes burning with tears. "You really did all that?" "We really did. It should have been done years ago. I'm sorry it took someone nearly dying for me to see what was right in front of me." "You don't have to apologize to me, Marcus. You probably saved lives, not just mine, all those other workers who were burning out just like I was." Marcus looked uncomfortable with the praise. He shifted his weight and glanced away. "Well, anyway, it's done now. I thought you should know." He started to walk away. "Marcus," Mira called after him. He turned back. "Thank you, for everything, for this job, for helping Arya, for changing things at the factory. Just thank you." Marcus nodded, his jaw working like he was trying not to show emotion. "You're welcome, Mira." He walked back into his office, but Mira saw it. The way his hands trembled slightly, the way he had to pause and take a breath before going inside. He wasn't nearly as composed as he pretended to be. And somehow, knowing that made her trust him even more. The changes came gradually, in ways so small that Mira almost didn't notice at first. It started with Arya's shoelaces. They came untied constantly. Arya would sit on the floor trying to fix them, but the loops never held right. One afternoon, Marcus was walking past on his way to a meeting. He saw Arya struggling and stopped, glanced at his watch. Meeting started in 4 minutes. He sat down on the floor beside her. "Those giving you trouble?" Arya looked up, surprised. "I can't make the bunny ears work right." Marcus's assistant Terence appeared in the doorway. "Sir, the lawyers are waiting. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." Marcus said without looking up. He showed Arya how to tie them. Slowly, patiently. "Loop here, cross there, pull it through." Arya tried. The laces immediately came undone. "That's all right. Try again, you'll get it." They sat there on the carpeted floor, the CEO in his expensive suit, and a 6-year-old girl with grass stains on her knees working on shoe tying while lawyers waited. On the 4th try, Arya got it. "I did it." "You sure did. Good job, kiddo." It became part of the daily routine. Every afternoon when Marcus had a break, he'd stop by Arya's corner, ask about her day, look at whatever she was drawing or reading or building. At first he was awkward. His questions sounded stiff. "What subject did you study in school today?" "We learned about butterflies. They start as caterpillars and then they make a cocoon and then they come out all pretty." "That's very educational. Butterflies are important to the ecosystem." But gradually he got better at it. Started asking follow-up questions that sounded natural. Learned that Arya's favorite color was purple. That she loved mac and cheese, that she wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. And Arya decided that Marcus was her favorite person in the entire building. She started bringing him drawings. Elaborate pictures done in crayon and marker, stick figures and houses and flowers and cats and rainbows. "This is for you, Mr. Marcus," she'd say, holding out the paper like it was precious. Marcus would take it seriously, studying it carefully. "This is really good work, Arya." "Thank you." And he'd pin it up on the corkboard in his office, right next to quarterly projections and merger proposals. His executives thought he'd lost his mind. Marcus couldn't have cared less. One evening in early May, Mira had to stay late to finish a report. She was so focused she completely lost track of time. When she finally looked up, the office was dark except for her computer screen. Arya had fallen asleep in her corner hours ago. Mira stood to stretch, then leaned forward on her desk, just resting her eyes for 1 second. When Marcus finally emerged from his office 90 minutes later, he found them both. Mira asleep at her desk, her head resting on her folded arms. Arya asleep in her corner, the unicorn stuffed animal held tight. Marcus stopped and just stood there, unsure what to do. Finally he took off his suit jacket, walked quietly over to Mira's desk, draped the jacket carefully over her shoulders like a blanket, trying not to wake her. She stirred slightly but didn't wake up. Marcus stepped back, dimmed the office lights, left a bottle of water on her desk where she'd see it. made sure the stairwell door was unlocked. Then he left as quietly as he could. The next morning, Mira found the jacket folded neatly on her desk. There was a yellow post-it note stuck to the sleeve. "You work too hard. Go home at a reasonable hour next time." Mira stared at the note, her chest feeling warm and tight at the same time. She carefully peeled it off and tucked it into her desk drawer where she'd see it every day. A reminder that someone noticed her, that someone cared. The small kindnesses multiplied over the following weeks. Marcus holding doors when Mira's arms were full. Mira arriving early to make coffee because she'd noticed Marcus stumbled through his first meetings half asleep without caffeine. Arya leaving little drawings and notes on Marcus's desk. "Thank you for helping with my shoes. You are nice, Mr. Marcus. I like working with you." Marcus pinning up every single one, until half his corkboard was covered with crayon drawings instead of business documents. One warm afternoon in late May, Arya sneezed 3 times. Marcus stopped immediately, pulled a pack of tissues from his jacket, and handed it to her. "Bless you, sweetheart." "Thank you, Mr. Marcus." Arya blew her nose with a loud honk that made her giggle. Marcus looked at her more closely. "You feeling okay? You're not getting sick?" "My nose is just tickly from the air, and I'm cold." Marcus frowned. "Cold? It's almost 70 degrees outside. The air conditioning makes me cold." Marcus glanced over at Mira, who had gone very still at her desk. He didn't say anything else, just nodded and walked away. The next morning when Arya came to the office, there was a new cardigan lying folded on her beanbag. Soft purple fleece, and beside it, a pair of fuzzy purple socks with little stars. Arya squealed with delight and immediately put them on. Mira found Marcus later, knocked on his office door. "Come in." She stepped inside. "You didn't have to buy her those things." "I know," Marcus said, not looking up. "I can't pay you back for them." "I didn't ask you to." Mira stood there trying to find the right words. "Why do you keep doing things like this for us?" Marcus finally looked up, met her eyes. "Because no child should be uncomfortable, and because I can help, so I do." "That's not really an answer." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he set down his pen. "When I was a kid bouncing around foster care, I was cold a lot, and hungry sometimes, and scared most of the time, and I swore that if I ever made it out, if I ever had the means to help someone else, I would." He paused. "I don't want any kid to feel the way I felt back then, not if I can prevent it." Mira felt tears prick her eyes. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Is that answer enough?" Marcus asked gently. "Yeah," Mira whispered. "That's enough." One Friday evening in early June, as Mira and Arya were getting ready to leave for the weekend, Marcus walked them to the elevator. "Have a good weekend." "You too. Any fun plans?" "Probably just catching up on work. The usual." "You should do something fun," Arya said seriously. "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. That's what my teacher says." Marcus laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Your teacher sounds very wise." The elevator doors started to close. "Mira," Marcus said suddenly, his hand shooting out to stop the doors. They slid back open and Mira looked at him expectantly. "Yeah." Marcus opened his mouth like he was going to say something important. Then he seemed to change his mind. Shook his head slightly. "Nothing. Never mind. See you Monday." The doors closed. Mira stood in the elevator wondering what he'd been about to say, her heart beating just a little faster than normal. Upstairs, Marcus stood alone in his office, looking at the corkboard covered with Arya's drawings. Stick figures holding hands. "Me and Mama and Mr. Marcus. Hearts and flowers and smiling suns. You are the best, Mr. Marcus. I love you." That last one had appeared just yesterday. Marcus had stared at it for 5 full minutes before finally pinning it up with shaking hands. He traced one finger over the crayon lines now, his chest feeling tight. He'd spent 38 years building walls around himself, keeping everyone at a careful distance, never letting anyone get close enough to matter, close enough to hurt him when they inevitably left. But somehow, without him fully realizing when or how it had happened, a woman and her little girl had slipped through every single one of those carefully constructed defenses, and Marcus didn't know what to do about it. He just knew that when they left each evening the office felt emptier, quieter, less like a place he wanted to be, and when they came back each morning, something in his chest loosened and he could breathe easier. That probably meant something. He just wasn't quite ready to admit what it meant yet. June arrived with unseasonable cold and rain that wouldn't quit. Life had found a comfortable rhythm. Mira worked her hours and got better at the job every week. Arya came to the office after school and did homework in her purple corner. Marcus checked on them both more often than was probably necessary. It felt stable, safe. Then Thursday afternoon shattered all of that. It was 2:45. The fire alarm went off. Not the gentle beeping of a scheduled drill. A full ear-splitting alarm that made everyone jump. Red lights started flashing. The overhead speakers crackled. This is a building-wide evacuation. Please proceed calmly to the nearest stairwell. This is not a drill. Mira's heart stopped. Her first thought, her only thought. Arya. She abandoned the computer and ran toward the break room. Empty. The puzzle was still spread across the table. Catherine's coffee mug sat steaming. But no Arya. No Catherine. Panic hit Mira like a physical blow. Arya. She spun around wildly. Catherine was coming down the hallway with other employees all moving toward the stairwell. Mira grabbed Catherine's arm hard. Where's Arya? Catherine's face went completely white. She was right with me. We were walking together and there were so many people and I just assumed she was right behind me. Her voice got higher. Oh my God, Mira, I thought she was following. Where is she? Mira's voice came out as a scream. Where's my daughter? I don't know, I'm so sorry. Mira didn't wait. She started running back through the office, throwing open every door. Conference rooms, supply closets, the copy room, bathrooms. Arya. Arya baby, where are you? Mama's here. The building was emptying fast. The alarm kept shrieking. She fought against the last stream of people heading for the exits. Has anyone seen a little girl, 6 years old, blonde hair, pink shirt with butterflies? Please. Blank faces, apologetic head shakes. Mira burst through the main doors onto the street. Employees were gathering on the sidewalk, standing in clusters. Hundreds of people. Mira's eyes frantically scanned the crowd, jumping from face to face to face. She couldn't see Arya anywhere. Arya. She screamed so loud it tore her throat. Arya. Catherine appeared beside her, tears streaming. Mira, I'm so sorry. I don't care about sorry. Mira grabbed Catherine's shoulders and shook her. I need you to help me find her. Mira's voice broke completely. Her mind was spiraling to all the terrible things that could happen to a 6-year-old alone in a city. Marcus was on the 43rd floor in a video conference when the alarm went off. He didn't hesitate. Just stood up, grabbed his phone, and headed for the stairs. By the time he made it down and out to the street, most of the building had emptied. He scanned the crowd. That's when he spotted Mira. She was spinning in circles on the sidewalk, her hands pulling at her own hair, her face twisted into an expression of pure terror. He pushed through the crowd. Mira, what's wrong? She whirled around. When she saw him, her face crumpled. I can't find her. The words came out broken and desperate. Marcus, I can't find Arya. She's gone. Marcus felt like someone had punched him. What do you mean you can't find her? She was with Catherine in the break room, and then the alarm went off, and now she's gone and I've looked everywhere. Mira was talking too fast, her breathing coming in gasps. On the edge of a panic attack, Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands, called his head of security. Jerome, I need you to pull up the security cameras right now. I'm looking for a 6-year-old girl named Arya Lane. White, blonde hair, pink shirt. Last seen on the executive floor about 15 minutes ago. He waited. Each second felt like an hour. Got her, sir. She exited through the east side service door about 13 minutes ago. 13 minutes. She'd been outside alone for 13 minutes. Which direction did she go? Looks like she headed toward the service alley behind the building. We're on our way. Marcus grabbed Mira's hand. She went outside. East side. Come on. They ran. The service alley was narrow and wet from the rain. It smelled like garbage and motor oil. Arya. Marcus's voice boomed off the brick walls. Arya, can you hear me? Nothing but the sound of rain and distant traffic. Baby, please. Mira's voice was raw. Mama's here. Please answer me. They moved deeper into the alley. Marcus's eyes scanned every shadow, every corner. Then he saw it. A flash of pink behind one of the larger dumpsters. There, Marcus said, already moving. Arya was huddled in the small space between the dumpster and the brick wall. She was soaking wet, her blonde hair plastered to her head. Her arms were wrapped tight around her knees. Her whole body shook.
Tears and rain mixed on her face. "Arya," Marcus said, dropping to his knees. The wet pavement soaked through his suit pants, but he didn't care. "Hey sweetheart, we found you." Arya looked up at him and a sob tore out of her throat. "I couldn't find Mama. I thought she was still inside the building. I thought she was trapped." Marcus's hands hovered in the air, wanting to comfort her but not knowing how. "Your mama's right here. She's safe. You're both safe." "Arya." Mira appeared, dropping to her knees in the dirty water. "Oh baby, oh my sweet girl." Arya lunged for her mother and they both collapsed together, holding each other, both crying. Marcus knelt there beside them, his heart still pounding hard enough to hurt. For 13 minutes, he'd thought she was gone, and the fear had been unlike anything he'd ever experienced. He reached out slowly and put one large hand on Arya's small back, just resting it there, steady and warm. "You're safe now, we've got you, both of us. You're safe." They stayed like that for a long time, the three of them huddled in a dirty alley while rain fell around them. When they finally stood up, Arya grabbed onto both of them, one small hand clutching her mother's jacket, the other grabbing Marcus's shirt sleeve, holding on to both of them like they were her anchors in a storm. Later, after the all-clear had been given, Marcus sat alone in his office with his head in his hands. His whole body still wouldn't stop shaking. There was a soft knock on his door. "Come in." Mira stepped inside. Arya was beside her, holding her mother's hand. They were both still damp from the rain. "Can we come in?" Marcus nodded, still not trusting his voice. Arya walked over slowly, her eyes were still red and puffy. She stopped right in front of Marcus's chair. "Mr. Marcus." "Yeah, sweetheart. I'm sorry I ran away. I got really scared and I did something dumb and I'm sorry." "You didn't do anything dumb," Marcus said firmly. He slid out of his chair and knelt down at her eye level. "You got scared and you went looking for your mama. That's not dumb, that's love. But I made you scared too." "Yeah," Marcus admitted, his voice getting thick. "You did, because I care about you, Arya. More than I think I even realized until today." Arya's lip trembled, then she stepped forward and threw her small arms around his neck. Marcus froze for just one heartbeat, caught completely off guard, then slowly wrapped his arms around her and held her close. Over Arya's shoulder, he looked up and met Mira's eyes. She was crying again, but she was smiling too. And Marcus understood in that moment that he'd been lying to himself for months. This wasn't just about being a good boss or helping out employees. This was about family. The Hartman house looked warm and inviting as they pulled up. Large colonial-style home, brick and stone, with tall windows and mature trees. Landscape lighting illuminated the gardens. "Whoa," Arya breathed. "Mr. Marcus, you live in a mansion." "It's just a house," Marcus said. "Too much house for one person, honestly." Inside was exactly what you'd expect from a successful bachelor. Expensive furniture that looked designer chosen, everything in shades of gray and cream and dark wood. Beautiful but cold, not a single personal photograph. No clutter, no signs that anyone actually lived there. Arya walked slowly through the living room. "It's so big and fancy." "Yeah," Marcus agreed, seeing his house through her eyes and feeling embarrassed. "I guess it is." Mira stood near the doorway looking uncomfortable. Her clothes were still damp. She kept her purse clutched like a shield. Marcus saw her discomfort. "Hey, you're welcome here, both of you. Make yourselves comfortable. I'll figure out some dinner." "Marcus, you don't have to. I want to. Please, just let me do this." Marcus stood in his professionally equipped kitchen, staring at appliances he barely knew how to use. He'd lived in this house for 3 years and probably cooked actual food, maybe 6 times total. But tonight he wanted to cook something himself, something real. He opened the fridge, found chicken breasts, vegetables, rice. Okay, he could work with this. He pulled out a large pan and put it on the stove, stared at all the knobs. He tried one knob, nothing. Tried another. The burner clicked and flame whooshed up suddenly. Marcus jerked backward, swearing under his breath. "Having some trouble?" Mira's voice came from the doorway. She was trying really hard not to smile. Marcus looked at her and couldn't help but smile back. "Is it that obvious?" "Just a bit. Here, let me help before you burn the house down." She took over the chicken while Marcus worked on chopping vegetables. They moved around each other in the kitchen, and it felt surprisingly natural. Arya had found the living room, and was curled up on the massive sectional couch, her eyes drifting closed. They ate dinner at the kitchen island. The food was simple but good. Arya perked up enough to eat, and even smiled when Marcus told her stories about his disastrous early cooking attempts. And then the smoke detector went off and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off, so I just stood there waving a towel at it for 20 minutes, Marcus said, making Arya giggle. What were you trying to cook? Toast, Marcus admitted, which made both Arya and Mira laugh. After dinner, they moved to the living room and put on a movie. Marcus sat on one end, Mira on the other, Arya right in the middle. Halfway through, Arya's head tilted onto Mira's shoulder. Within minutes, she was deeply asleep. Mira stroked her daughter's blonde hair gently. Her eyes were on the screen, but Marcus could tell she wasn't really watching. Thank you, she said quietly. For today, for being there when Arya was scared, for this, all of it. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes I do. Mira looked over at him. You didn't have to care about us. You're my boss. You could have just kept that professional distance, but you didn't. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I tried to keep that distance. That first day when Arya showed up at my gate, I kept telling myself to call the authorities and hand it off. Stay out of it. He paused, but I couldn't do it. Why not? Because I spent my whole childhood wishing someone would care enough to actually help instead of just passing me along, Marcus said, his voice low and rough. And when I saw Arya lying there in the snow, I knew I couldn't be one more person who didn't care. Mira's eyes filled with tears. You're a good man, Marcus Hartman. I'm trying to be. Don't always succeed, but I'm trying. They sat in silence, the movie playing forgotten. Marcus, Mira said eventually, what are we doing here? Really, what do you mean? This. You and me and Arya, we're not just boss and employee anymore. We haven't been for a while now. She paused, but I don't know what we are instead. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her blonde hair drying in waves, at the freckles across her nose, at the way she held her daughter so carefully. I don't know either, he admitted. I just know that when you two leave at the end of the day, my whole house feels emptier. And when you come back in the morning, I can breathe easier. He paused. Does that make sense? Yeah, Mira whispered, that makes sense. They looked at each other across the couch, across Arya sleeping between them. I'm scared, Mira said softly. I'm scared of letting myself want this, want you, because people like me don't get to keep good things. Hey, Marcus said firmly, don't talk about yourself like that. It's true though, I'm a single mom who barely graduated high school. You're a CEO worth millions. Eventually you're going to wake up and realize we're from completely different worlds. Mira, stop, Marcus interrupted. I don't care about any of that. You think I care that you didn't go to college? You think that matters to me at all? It should. Well, it doesn't. Marcus's voice was fierce. You know what matters to me, that you worked yourself half to death for 4 years to keep your daughter safe. That you're one of the strongest people I've ever met, that you make me laugh, that you make me want to be better. He paused. That's what matters. Mira was crying now. Marcus, I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss and that makes things weird. I know we're from different backgrounds. I know there are a lot of reasons why this probably shouldn't work. He took a breath. But I can't stop caring about you, about both of you, and I don't want to anymore. Mira opened her mouth but no words came out. You don't have to say anything right now, Marcus said quickly. I just needed you to know. They sat there in the quiet living room. Finally Mira spoke. I care about you too. That's what scares me. I care about you so much and I don't know what to do with that. Marcus stepped closer. You don't have to do anything with it right now. We can just take it slow. See where it goes. What if it goes nowhere? Mira breathed. She did. Taking a shaky breath. You're not going to lose your job. No matter what happens between us personally, you've earned your place at that company. He paused. But I don't think this is going nowhere. Do you? Mira looked up at him. No, I don't think it is. Marcus smiled slow and warm. Then let's just see what happens. Together. No pressure. No expectations. Just us. Mira nodded, and then before she could talk herself out of it, she stood on her toes and kissed him. It was soft and tentative, and asking a question without words. Marcus kissed her back, one hand cupping her face, the other settling gently on her waist. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that for a while," Mira admitted, her cheeks flushing. "Me too," Marcus said, his voice rough. "Probably longer than I want to admit." 3 weeks after the gala where Marcus had honored Mira in front of hundreds of people, Marcus stood in his office, staring at a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, simple and elegant, a single diamond set in platinum, not too big, not too flashy, just right. His hands were shaking as he picked up the box. He'd negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions without his hands shaking. He'd stood in front of hostile investors, and never flinched. He'd built a business empire from nothing, but this terrified him. What if she said no? What if it was too fast? He closed the box, and shoved it in his pocket before he could talk himself out of it. That evening, he found Mira and Arya in the kitchen of his house. Over the past few months, they'd been staying at his place more often than their own apartment. Their toothbrushes were in the guest bathroom. Arya's drawings covered his refrigerator. Mira's jacket hung by the front door. It had happened gradually, naturally. Right now they were at the kitchen island, Arya working on spelling homework while Mira helped her sound out the harder words. "Cater, pillar, Arya said slowly. "That's a really long word, Mama. You're doing great, baby girl." Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching. This had become his favorite part of every day, coming home to find them here, safe and happy, filling his empty house with life and warmth. "Hey," he said softly. They both looked up. Arya's face lit up. "Mr. Marcus, can you help? I don't understand how to spell beautiful." Marcus smiled. "Maybe in a bit. Right now I need to borrow your mama for a few minutes. Is that okay?" Arya shrugged, already focused back on homework. "Okay, but then you're helping with spelling. Deal." Marcus held out his hand to Mira. "Come with me. Both of you, actually." He drove them back to Hartman Holdings even though it was after 8 at night and the building was completely empty. "Marcus, what's going on?" Mira asked as they pulled into the deserted parking garage. "Just trust me." He led them inside and up to the executive floor.
When the elevator doors opened, Mira gasped. The entire floor had been transformed. Photographs covered every available wall space. Dozens and dozens of them, all framed, all carefully arranged, pictures of Mira and Arya over the past 7 months. Arya coloring in her purple corner. Mira laughing at something Catherine said. The 3 of them at the park one Sunday afternoon. Arya and Marcus working on shoe tying. Mira asleep at her desk with Marcus's jacket draped over her. All 3 of them having breakfast in his kitchen. Moments captured over months. A life built together so gradually none of them had quite noticed when it stopped being separate and became shared. "Marcus," Mira whispered, her hand covering her mouth. How did you? "I've been taking pictures for months," Marcus admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "Didn't even really realize I was doing it until I looked through my phone last week and saw how many there were. And I realized something." He stepped closer to her, taking both her hands in his. "These are the happiest moments of my life. Every single one. Before you and Arya, I had a house but not a home. I had success but not purpose. I had money but not joy." His voice got rougher. "You two gave me everything that actually matters." Tears were streaming down Mira's face. Arya was running from picture to picture, pointing and giggling. "Mama, look, that's when we made cookies and burned them." Marcus knelt down beside Arya. "Hey sweetheart, can I ask you something really important?" Arya's eyes went wide and serious. "Okay," Marcus took a deep breath. "Do you think it would be okay if I asked your mama to marry me? If I wanted to be your family officially forever?" Arya's whole face exploded into the biggest smile. "Yes, yes, 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 yes." She started jumping up and down, clapping. "Can I be a flower girl? Please, please, please." Marcus laughed, his own eyes getting misty. "Yeah, kiddo, you can definitely be the flower girl." Then he stood and turned to Mira. He pulled out the small velvet box, opened it with trembling hands. Mira's breath caught. "Mira Lane," Marcus said, and his voice was shaking but he didn't stop. 7 months ago, your daughter showed up at my gate in a blizzard and changed my entire life. You brought warmth into my cold, empty world. You brought laughter and purpose and love, so much love I didn't know what to do with it at first." He took a breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "I don't want to spend another day without you. I don't want to wake up in that house alone. I want mornings with burnt pancakes and evenings helping with spelling homework. I want Arya's drawings covering every surface. I want everything messy and chaotic and real. His voice broke slightly. I want to be Arya's father officially, and I want to be your husband. If you'll have me. Tears were pouring down Mira's face, but she was smiling too. Will you marry me? Will you and Arya let me be your family forever? Mira tried to speak, but no words would come out. She just nodded frantically, laughing and crying at the same time. Is that a yes? Marcus asked, his voice cracking. Yes, Mira finally managed to say. Yes, Marcus, yes, yes, yes. Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Arya ran over and hugged them both, bouncing up and down. We're a real family now. We're really a family. Marcus laughed and scooped Arya up with one arm while keeping the other around Mira. We're a family forever and ever. The three of them stood there in that empty office building, surrounded by photographs of their life together, holding each other tight. And for the first time in his entire life, Marcus Hartman felt completely, absolutely home. The next morning, Arya woke up to the smell of pancakes. She ran downstairs in her pajamas, her blonde hair sticking up in every direction, and found Marcus and her mama in the kitchen together. Marcus stood at the stove actually successfully making pancakes, only slightly burnt around the edges. Mira sat at the counter with coffee in her hands and a ring sparkling on her finger, watching him with a smile that made her whole face glow. They looked right together, natural, like they'd always been meant to be exactly this way. Morning, baby girl, Mira said, opening her arms. Arya climbed onto her lap and watched Marcus flip a pancake. Are they gonna be good this time? Hey now, Marcus protested with a grin. I'm getting better at this. He slid a plate of only slightly burnt pancakes onto the counter with a flourish. Arya took a huge bite. They're good, really good, really. Marcus looked genuinely pleased. Really, they ate breakfast together in the sunny kitchen, and Arya swung her legs happily. Mr. Marcus, she said through a mouthful of pancake. Yeah, sweetheart. When you marry Mama, does that mean you're gonna be my daddy? Marcus's hand froze halfway to his coffee mug. He looked at Mira, who had tears in her eyes again. If that's okay with you, Marcus said carefully, I'd really like to be your dad, but only if you want that. Arya thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. Okay, but can I still call you Mr. Marcus sometimes? I like that name. Marcus laughed, and it came out a little choked. You can call me whatever you want, kiddo. Okay, Daddy Marcus, Arya said, testing it out with a gigantic grin. Marcus had to look away for a second, his eyes suddenly shiny. Mira reached over and took his hand, squeezing tight. And in that moment, in that sunny kitchen with slightly burnt pancakes and a 6-year-old who had walked through a blizzard to save her mother, they were finally, completely, perfectly home.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.